Hello, my name is Nathan Howe. I'm the Department Head of Interior Architecture and Industrial Design. And I would first like to thank the Ekdahl family for creating the Ekdahl Distinguished Lecture Series, which is what we're about to see, the kickoff of the 21-22 series. This series brings the finest professionals in design and planning disciplines to AP Design and the K-State community. The series honors Oscar Ekdahl, who received his Bachelor of Architecture from Kansas State University in 1933 and was a founding partner in the Ekdahl Davis DePue Pearson Architects PA in Topeka, Kansas. So we are fortunate enough to have Turi Cacciatore joining us virtually from Paris, France. And I should set the table a little bit there. The Ekdahl series, of course, during the last year was all virtual, and this year we've kind of testing out the fact that it is good to have a few virtually to bring from across the globe that maybe can't get here otherwise, so that you guys can get the expertise from afar. And so that may mean that for our speaker, Turi, he's going to start his talk today. He's going to end in tomorrow for him. For us, it'll be still today. So I really thank you, Turi, for interrupting our circadian rhythm for this talk. And I'm sorry for that, but it's great to have you. So let me tell you a little bit about Turi before I turn it over to him. He graduated in transportation design from the European Institute of Design in Torino. Immediately hit the ground running, taking over the design lead for the Fiat 500, which was released in 2004. You could say that he had the dream job that everybody wanted, really. Fiat turning over kind of the future of automotive design into his hands. And what I find remarkable is that he, at that point, having it all, decided to let that go and start something new and fresh. And I think he's going to tell us all about that career path that he had, that spinoff from being an industrial designer to a man of many hats, freelance designer, concept artist, 3D modeler, programmer, I would say tool maker, all of the above. Working for companies like Bulgari, Panini, Farina, Samsung, Toyota, Boshoku, you name it, he's worked for them, and he's gone into all kinds of fields, from car industry to aviation industry to consumer products, conceptual art, video game development, TV advertisement, design, and programming. He's also a teacher, which obviously some close to home, teaching at his home institution, and also at Domus Academy in Milan, the Royal College of Art in London, the Haute École d'Art Design in Geneva. You name it, he's done it. And I think we're really fortunate to have him. I think what I appreciate about Turi is really his enthusiasm, his passion, his courage, and I think what his superpower, if he has just one, would be his curiosity. And I think if we could all just take one thing, one trait from Turi and what he has to offer, it would be the curiosity. So to get started, the rules of the game are that you put in the chat any of your questions, and Turi has given me the privilege of being able to interrupt him and ask those questions during the presentation. So I look forward to your questions, and I look forward to your talk, Turi. And please, everyone, I know you're out there virtually, quietly applauding. Please join me in welcoming Turi Cacciatore, given his presentation, An Unconventional Career Path in Design.
Much. Thank you so much, Nathan. Very nice introduction. Did I all do that. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, especially consider that, yes, by preparing the presentation, I realized that there's been already 28 years in design since the beginning of my, let's say, training in design. And half of this time was spent here in this office you see in the background. So it was quite a nice and amazing trip in a journey in design. So I'm very happy to share, and hope it will be beneficial to the young students of today. So shall I share my screen now?
Sounds good.
Okay. Share screen 2. Is it working? Should be fine.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So we talk about an unconventional career path in design. It was unconventional because I think I made choices that are probably the opposite of what people normally do. I will explain that better later. And I totally agree with Nathan that curiosity is probably one of my drives. But I will add also learning. I think learning is really something important for me, and it led me to make most of the important choices in my career. And beside the passion for creativity and technology, passion for any creative process, I'm also passionate about music and the way films are made, the way video games are made. So I always try to explore different fields and bring that into my job. So you probably noticed that during the presentation. And also you probably have an idea on what it means being a multidisciplinary designer today, which is very difficult to explain. That's why it takes one presentation to do it. And it's very fun from my side, and I enjoy every minute of my job. And so I hope you will enjoy the story too. So a bit of geographical information. I'm here. I'm not in Paris, but I'm in France anyway. So very, very close. So I'm in a little village called Corbonneau, which is not far from the Swiss border. The next city is, the closest city is Geneva in Switzerland. I'm not also far from Italy. In fact, I'm Italian. And I was born in Sicily. I was born in a little village called Aragona in the south coast of Sicily. And but when I was 1, my parents moved to Torino, which is the Italian city of automobiles. I grew up in Torino, and that's where I did my car design, transportation design studies. You can tell, I mean, probably have heard about Turin. Everything revolves around cars in Turin, and so it was sort of easy for me to have influences about car design and the automotive world in general. I remember my father used to bring me every year to the auto show in Torino. And that's where I probably got passionate about design in general. And so it was quite, as I said, it was quite natural for me to follow this path, and I went to Fiat very, very early. I think I was hired when I was 20, officially when I was 23, but I started collaborating when I was 21. So my career at Fiat started very early, and I was very, very early involved in important projects. The most important project I worked on, and for me, and also was very important for Fiat at the time, was the Fiat Ecobasic. Ecobasic was meant to be a sustainable mobility solution. sustainability was one of its core value, and alongside with the sustainability, a lot of other, let's say, values were important, like minimalism. If you see how this seat is made, you can tell that it's really the bare essentials, and this literally there's not a screw that you can take off of it. And that there's no cover, there's no plastic covers. I think that was a very important, let's say, value that led the car to have this very unique look. The Ecobasic was made to be affordable, so less is more. It was always one of the Fiat, let's say, core values. And for example, here you see the rear end of the car, and it's very, very simple. I mean, is the rear seat could open like a saloon doors and leave the space to whatever package you wanted to put in the car. So this was a way to, let's say, keep things very simple but provide more in terms of experience. Lightness was another very important, let's say, value behind the project. All the plastic, all the panels, all the doors, all the whatever you see in white and gray here was made in plastic. Of course, a recyclable plastic, so it was in the direction of sustainability, and even the glazing, which is very uncommon because the plastic glazing tend to be scratched, and that's one of the reasons why you normally do it with glass. But somehow our engineer found a way and found a solution, especially in collaboration with GE Plastic, who was the plastic supplier. So we end up finding a way of having this very curved windscreen, and also the rear end of the car with this sort of bubble shape, which if you think that it's made in plastic, it makes sense because it was giving structure to the part. Same thing for the windscreen. So it was an advantage. At the same time, the possibility of creating shapes which were so curved in different direction, it gave us the possibility of creating a shape which was very aerodynamic. What normally people think, so that a monovolume shape is the most aerodynamic shape, is not entirely true, because the most aerodynamic shape is the drop shape. And here you see that you can see two drops, one on top of each other. So the Ecobasic has a very, very good efficiency, and of course it was in the direction of the sustainability, because it was really consuming less because of its exterior shape. Reliability was another important, let's say, point to work on. The car had a very small engine, a 3-stroke engine, that you were supposed to be hidden for the whole life cycle. There was a sort of a message to the client. It means this is so reliable, you don't even have to see it anytime. If you think about it, this is very, very close to the way modern electric cars are made. You never see the engine. It's not interesting, actually. And so, and also because the engine of a washing machine never breaks. I mean, you don't have to fix it every month. So this solution of having a panel that opens up and you have access to the battery elements, the fluids, it was a way to communicate a very user-friendly use of the car, and also reliability, because actually the bonnet didn't have hinges. So it was the work of a mechanic to dismantle it and to open it to access the engine. Also very good move from Fiat, because it was never, I mean, Fiat was not always seen as a reliable brand. So that was a big statement. Heritage, of course, a very important value, because this car inherited a lot from the Fiat icons of the 50s and the 60s, in previous the Fiat 500. Even if you didn't inherit the shape, inherited the spirit, because the Fiat 500 was a mobility solution, affordable for most of the Italians at that time. It was, for many Italians, was the first car. People went from the Vespa to the Fiat 500, and that's why we are all our Italians, we are very attached to those icons. So the Ecobasic inherited a lot from that. I say not from the, let's say, the styling point of view. During my career at Fiat, of course, I work on many other projects, and this is the most important. But I also had the chance to participate, as Nathan said at the beginning. I was in charge of the Fiat 500 project at the very beginning, so the very first conceptual phases, and then the project was handled into other designers' hands. And that was a completely different project, because that was inheriting the shape of the icons of the 50s. Maybe not the spirits, because the Fiat 500 today is quite an expensive car compared to the other, even the other Fiat, the other cars of the Fiat portfolio. So that's why I always felt very attached to this project, and I felt a bit sad when I realized that he was going to spend his life in a museum. the Ecobasic was never produced. It was presented at the 2000 Geneva Auto Show, and we tried very hard to make it into production. And but the problem was that this was a car that it was innovative because the process was innovative, both the design process, but also the manufacturing process. You don't make a plastic car the same way you make a metal car. So mostly for this reason and others, was too much of a jump for Fiat to imagine to produce a car like this. It needed a lot of courage and a lot of investment, and probably that was not the right moment. So you can imagine like a 23-year-old like me having the possibility of doing a dream car like the Ecobasic, and realized it 2 years later that it was not going to production. So I sort of entered like a personal crisis that lasted a long time. And it was both a professional and personal crisis that led me to mature and to understand that the field that I was working in, because maybe it's not that easy to understand from the outside, but automotive is a lot about car styling and a bit less about car design. To me, styling and design, they are two completely different approaches, and I never felt like a stylist. I always wanted to go at the core of things and creating a solution that could have improved the world and have an impact on the world. And when I see this picture, I see a car in a museum that is looking outside and is saying, I could have done something good, out there, help some people and help them improve their life. And so I felt the same way. So at the time when the project was finished, of course, I kept my career and I stayed at Fiat a long more. It took me a lot to realize that probably the automotive was not the right place for me. Also because in the year 2000, exactly the year that the Ecobasic was presented, I had read a book that has changed completely my approach to design, and it was not a design book. It was an economy book by Jeremy Rifkin, the American economist. Jeremy Rifkin 20 years ago was sort of previewing the future of today. So today's world, he said in the future, the access to digital experiences in the form of services around the physical product will be much more important than the physical product itself. And that opened for me a very big scenario, because I understood that my job as an industrial designer that is, let's say, with an expertise on cars and very physical products, I understood that this could have had an impact on my career, you know, and I started really thinking about this, and I think this book was also follow me along my career in the important decision. So one of the most important decisions I had to make in my life was, do I leave a full-time job or not? Because I was fairly successful. It was, I worked with very nice people. They're still, most of them are still my friends, and I really enjoyed the time at Fiat. But when I realized that it was too dangerous to say than to leave, of course, I started realizing that I need to move somehow. And what people normally, when they start thinking about leaving a job, they start thinking of what they call the parachute. So as soon as you start saying, maybe I'm going to leave, so people asking, do you have a parachute? A parachute normally is like either money in the bank or another contract. And I didn't have any of that. So one day I woke up in the morning and I asked to myself in the mirror, if I was free to do whatever I wanted, will I go to the office today? And the answer was no. So I went to the human resources and resigned that day, the same day, without having planned, and without a parachute. I thought I didn't have a parachute, but at the end, I had it. So my parachute was all the knowledge, apart from the passion, the technical knowledge that I let's say, learned about creating concepts. Because my career at Fiat lasted from 1998 to 2007, so it was 10 years. And I covered different roles, but mainly about the development of concept cars. So I really felt like a concept designer, especially if you imagine the Ecobasic. When I was assigned to the project, I was hired actually as an interior car designer. And during the project, I did some interior concept, and then I switched to exterior. I mean, I started also doing a concept for the exterior of the car. So my approach was a little bit global and trying to break the boundaries. And this is something that I've had for all my journey in design in my career.
Turi,
So, yeah.
I have a question that came in, and it really has to do with the Ecobasic. Was there anything that Fiat ended up utilizing for future models that are, you know, literally echoes of the Ecobasic?
Yeah, absolutely zero.
Yeah.
I'm so yeah, you know, sad about that. Yeah. Actually, what we have done on the Ecobasic had to be translated in what came with the name of Fiat Panda, but not the original Fiat Panda designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, the second generation Panda. But it came, you can tell, yeah, after the years 2000, while the original one was, I think, from the end of the 70s. I followed a long process after the Ecobasic project was finished that was really focused on bringing that car into production. And we tried to, at the beginning, even to make the Ecobasic without using plastics. And the result was that, as I said before, you cannot make in metal a car that is conceived to be in plastic, because a plastic car, it lives of its, let's say, roundness, because it makes the plastic more structural. And so when we started to make the metal, Ecobasic. It was a normal car, just with the Ecobasic shape, which I didn't consider correct anyway. But well, we tried to do it, and we created a series of little monsters, literally things that were not really as good as the original. And the top management kept on saying, this is not as cute as the Ecobasic. And we kept on saying, yes, because the Ecobasic was made in different materials, and it was a different concept. So you cannot just take the shape of something and translate it into a new project. So at the end, what wanted to be the Ecobasic on production, it became the Fiat Panda. So if you take the Fiat Panda, probably in America you've never seen it, but if you do a quick research, even the Fiat Panda today, I mean, that was the consequence of the Ecobasic, and not the shape and not the concept. They're there. I mean, it's a completely different product. So nothing. I'm afraid to say that nothing went into production of that car, and that's one of the reasons why I was so unhappy somehow. But thanks for the question. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. So getting back to my parachute, so I was explaining what was my parachute, and it was exactly the ability of being able to think about a concept, in this case a car, in an environment, figure out the lighting around the product, and being able to create an emotional image as the third step. When I realized that I had this skill, and this is slightly different from the classic sketching in car design. This was more like trying to make the perspective right scientifically, trying to work with the background and foregrounds, with composition. You have to imagine that normally a car designer doesn't care about the backgrounds of the drawing. The focus is on the car. Then this drawing is given to modelers, and then the modelers create a physical model. So my, let's say, willing to learn more, it brought me to being able to create a complex environment. And I considered this a parachute because I understood that this could be applied to anything. In fact, in the second chapter of my career without Fiat, and when I was an independent designer, I worked as a concept designer for motorbikes. In the field of aviation, I created really a lot of concept design for aviation, for both airlines and business jet or VIP jets. And it was something I really enjoyed a lot. And it was, let's say, for me, the same approach. It was creating a concept, and no better for which fields. I even got into TV ads and video games, and creating both vehicles and any kind of products, but also environment, quite complex environment. This image was done for a Nissan TV ads. And it was literally a science fiction, a dark science fiction movie let's say shortened in a couple of minutes. So I literally enjoyed this kind of projects, and it was my everyday job when I became like an independent designer, when I moved here in this studio. So everything I will showing from now on, it was done in this room, mainly by one person, which is me. And I talked before about the importance of learning, which it was for me the drive, and probably is what also stopped me from creating a design team or hiring other people or other designers. Because every time I got a project and there was something missing in the project, something I was not able to do, instead of taking it as an opportunity to hire another professional, I took it as an opportunity to learn something new. And so I realized that I was learning, and I really enjoyed that time for this reason. So my career as a car designer had this very strong change of direction towards concept design, but at the same time, I enlarged. Car design is transportation design, so I sort of focused more on the concept, on the process of creating a concept, but at the same time, I enlarged the field to other means of transportation. And this was just one path, because there was another very, very important thing that I tried to do, and that also start explaining the multidisciplinary approach. Because at the same time that I was working as a concept artist, I started developing, first of all, I started developing, and I had already a passion for video games, but I started developing an interest in how video games are made. And working as a concept artist, it led me to understand better the world of video games. So as soon as I learned that to make a racing game, you need a car concept, 3D models, and programming, I realized I already had two of the skills that could have potentially allowed me to create something on my own. And in those times, Apple created the App Store. So even small developers could create a game and sell it. So I saw that as an opportunity of being even more independent, that don't wait for a client to show up to make a project. And the decision of launching myself in this direction, it was also given by the fact that I left Fiat in 2007, and 2007 was a great year. 2008 was a great year. But 2009 was the worst year ever. And if you were an employee at that time, you don't know what it meant. But if you were a freelance or an independent professional, you know that in my case, that telephone didn't ring for 1 year. So there was nothing to do. Every project was stopped. So I realized that my parachute, I needed another parachute. So it was a choice given by passion, my passion for games, but was always a way to be more secure and more independent. So I mentioned that to make a racing game, you need concepts, you need modeling, and you also need programming. I didn't know at all how to program. So in 2009, waiting for the telephone to ring, I spent 1 entire year focusing on programming and learning programming from scratch. I didn't have a teacher. I learned from the forums, I learned from the books, I learned from whatever I could, from practice, most of all. I used to write code to see if it was working. If it was working, I was adding a line. If the line was creating a problem, I was trying to fix that line, and little by little creating my expertise in programming. I think I can say that programming changed my life and my professional, let's say, approach to design forever. It was probably, beside leaving a full-time job at Fiat, it was the most important choices I made in my career, because programming allows you to design behaviors, not only shapes. So today's products, they have behaviors, and I mean, it will be more clear during the presentation, but I also had in mind what Jeremy Rifkin said, is that the services and digital experiences would have become more important than the physical product. So I knew there was something interesting there, and that's why I invested so much and focused so much on this project that I never finished, actually, because it was the project of creating a racing game. Actually, was it could have been the first racing game of including electric cars. I never finished because before I finished, I started getting the interest of big brands in luxury and in automotive and in the electronics as well, because I was able to create small apps, maybe not complete video games yet, but I was able to create product configurators and virtual products like this. This was one of the first important projects that I made as a digital designer, and it was basically the digital reconstruction of a very complicated watch, one of the most complicated watch in the world, a watch that is worth $500,000 and is made by hand. And you can tell how many parts it has. The parts in the back, what you see on the screen, they are just for the chimes, for creating sounds. Because you will see in a moment, and you also will see that the virtual replica, it works perfectly. Now when this button is pressed, you see that the little hammers will make a chime, and this chime is different every quarter of an hour because it replicates the sounds of the Westminster Abbey in London, which originally was made that way because people needed to hear a sound and understand what time it was just by the sound. And I did a training with a watchmaker that explained me how these mechanical hammers work, and I had to replicate this with programming, of course, in this virtual version that became an app. And so I had to invent a very rudimentary artificial intelligence script that took the information of time and translated that into a melody, which was different every quarter of an hour. So it was an amazing project, and I enjoyed it. It still feels modern today, even if it's more than 10 years old. So project on mobile apps led me to more projects, also in very close field to mobile apps development, which is the field of interactive installation. An interactive installation is built exactly like a mobile app, but instead of being displayed on a screen, it can be displayed maybe on a retro-projected 15-meter screen. And this project that I developed for Samsung for the 2013 Milan Design Week was actually another interesting project, less interesting from the graphic point of view, but more interesting from the interaction point of view, because you had two 15 meters long wall, one facing each other, retro-projected, so with a live image. It was like a big, let's say, a big video game where you could control these elements like plastic bowls or paper planes, and you could control that in real time with your phone, of course, a Samsung phone, because Samsung was the sponsor of the exhibition. And it was amazing because at one point we had like 20 people playing this multiplayer game all at the same time. And maybe when I was playing with the ball, the guy beside me was using a paper plane, and they were interacting also with each other. So it was using even physics in the proper way to create an experience that switched the attention from the product itself, the phone produced by Samsung, and the experience. So that was exactly what Jeremy Rifkin was saying in his book. At one point, the experience will be much more important than the physical product. And that was the proof, because actually Samsung at that time did exactly what Apple was doing, because Apple was the first of creating a very minimalistic smartphone, where what was important was not the shape of the phone. It was well made, it was really well crafted, but what was interesting was the access to this world of music, photos, connections with friends, videos, and so on. So I always felt very happy and let's say glad to be part in this project, which was developed together with Francois Confinot, which is the guy you see in the picture, a very, very famous architect, and Supermaxi Studio, which is a studio in Turin. which took care mostly of the interface on the phones and other aspect of the installation, while all the graphics and all the programming was more my let's say part of my job.
Tori, another
Yeah.
question's come in.
Yes.
How did you get connected to, as an independent designer, to all these kind of Fortune 500 companies to work for? I mean, how are you? What's your magic, man?
My magic. Well, my magic is first of all creating something that there's no doubt that is interesting. So you have to imagine that these brands like Samsung, like Bulgari, and also Toyota, and the project that is following, they had their own digital agencies. So I was really surprised and really, let's say, proud to see that they were putting their digital agency aside to work with me, because they saw something that the big agency was not able to create. Maybe because I had this multidisciplinary approach, so I was able to create things very quickly and import from different fields and mixing technologies to create something that was really effective. But of course, I have to say that another important thing that played this role was the fact that at Fiat, I developed a network of professionals which were spread all over the world afterwards. And so I think the time at Fiat was not only important from what I learned, so I was always I have to be very thankful for Fiat, but also from the people that I got in touch with. So that is not let's say a guarantee of getting a project. I mean, you can have connection, but you need to prove that you can do something special in order to get it. So it was a combination of different things. So what is happening today, I mean, like 15 years later living Fiat, is that I still keep on getting contacts and expanding the network. But this time is not coming from the Fiat times, it's coming from the work that people have seen made by me and in different occasions, and is sort of, I could say that today my projects are promoting myself. I mean, and it's becoming like a full circle where the more I do, the more I get visibility, and that is really important. I mean, it's something you don't learn at school. You need to learn by practice. So the art of getting a project for a freelance designer is really probably the most important thing. I mean, you need to be able to get a constant flow project. But that's also why I had this multidisciplinary approach. I mean, I had different jobs at the same time. So I could receive a call and work on a TV ads one day, and the next day I was creating a concept for an aircraft, or maybe developing an app for another client. Keeping all these things together, it was an effort, but it was also it was very helpful, because if a project needed a concept modeling and then a configurator or a video, you will see in the following project that I could really put it all together, and I didn't have to contact different people, and all it was done all in the same process, without multiplying times and without multiplying the budget. So when I realized that, I thought I found something interesting, and this is the reason why I really like to discuss these things, and discuss why my approach is unconventional and why it works, because I'm sure that other people could do the same. And we could also organize education in a way that is less, let's say, sectorial, less divided into blocks. So I hope I answered the question. And yeah, so interactive installation opened a very interesting subject, because while mobile apps were happening in the virtual world only, interactive installation was something hybrid that was happening in the virtual world, but also in the physical world. So in that times, I was started interested in digital fabrication, and I saw it also as an opportunity of making better interactive installation, because by prototyping things, I mean, if you needed a part for a project, you could be able probably to make it. But my interest in digital fabrication started in a very strange way. I mean, I was very surprised on how it all developed, because it was somehow by chance that I had this interest in the 3D printers, and I wanted to buy a printer. But when I was trying to understand how a printer works, I realized that to me it was a sort of a simple process. I mean, very, very simple component, especially because we were at the beginning of the 3D printing hype, so called. So at one point I decided to make my own printer just to try. And I had in the cellar some drawers from IKEA, and I decided to use that as the enclosure for the printer. And to my to my surprise, this went in the news. I mean, people are starting taking it as like maybe a great invention. I mean, for me, it was just a way to make it fast, you know? So I realized that there was a lot of interest in the 3D printing, and I also realized that the passion from my side, it was growing exponentially, and that's why I decided to create another printer. And this time it was a much, let's say, defined project, and I spent a lot of time in creating the concept, creating the engineering, both the physical, the mechanical engineering, and the digital engineering, because this printer needed, it has 3 vertical axes. So it needed a lot of computing to create, for example, an horizontal movement. There's a video that shows how it works. So when you turn it on, and this actually, the first time I turned it on and it worked, I was amazed. I think I said in the previous session that this is probably the project I'm most attached to in my career, because I had the idea, I created it here in this room. I bought the components, I did the programming, I acted both as a designer and a mechanical engineer and a programmer. And what makes the project amazing is that it's not a model, it's not a maquette, it's a prototype, and it's a working prototype that works perfectly. It creates a very beautiful 3D printed objects. Here you see how it works, how the vertical axes are combined to create movements. And actually, the actual part of the printer, which are made in plastic, are made with the printer itself. So the first iteration was made with my first printer that you see in the background. It's here, the black one. So the first parts were created with that printer, but then this white printer started, I use it to create upgrades for itself. So that's another reason why I'm really attached to this project, because it's a design project that is somehow designing itself, you know, completing itself with time. And of course, the plan is to make it an open source project, so that anybody in the world can download the parts and create his own. So sometimes I can see the spirit of the Ecobasic somehow in it, because the Ecobasic didn't make it, but it could have made the world a better place with simple solution, affordable and sustainable solution. And so this printer, it has more or less the same approach. It's meant to create something affordable for people and to improve people's life, even if I'm perfectly aware that maybe it's a bit too soon for 3D printing at this level to be, let's say, something for the masses, but also believe in the let's say, the function of designers. I believe designers need to bring 3D printing at the next level, instead of let's say, complaining of the imperfection of the finishing of the parts. So I took this very seriously, and I invested a lot of time, exactly as I did invest a lot of time in learning programming. So I invested a lot of time also bringing the 3D printer project ahead. And this is an example, a 3D printed CNC router, which means what you see here as the yellow parts, they are printed with the 3D printer you saw in the previous project. While the other parts, apart from other CNC machine part, are just off-the-shelf parts. I mean, things you can find very easily in online stores. So this is a project that, like another machine that is made for carving wood, and also this is the small version, but it could be built in a very big, let's say, double the size version, which could be used potentially to make furniture, or even to make small houses, small prefabricated houses. There's a very interesting project called WikiHouse online that uses this kind of machine to create affordable solution for people. So I saw it as a very direct consequence of 3D printing, and because it also solves the problem of 3D printing, which is the limits, which is a 3D printer can only make small parts and cannot make structural parts. But if with a 3D printer you create a a CNC router like this, you can create structural parts, and you can create very big parts. So the two combined together, I think, it really makes sense, and it could be the right set for the basic set for digital fabrication, in the sense of affordability and sustainability.
Turi, that actually foreshadows maybe this next question.
Okay.
Have you read Rifkin's Why the Fossil Fuel Civilization Will Collapse by 2028 and the bold economic plan to save life on Earth? And if Rifkin is right, what are the implications for planners and designers?
Can you repeat the question?
So I guess he's alluding to another of Rifkin's.
Yeah, there's another book by Rifkin, yes.
Yeah, the Fossil Fuel Civilization Will Collapse
Yeah.
by 2028. And they're just
Yes.
wondering if you have read that, what do you think the implications of this for planners and designers?
Yeah.
If the fossil fuel does collapse.
I totally agree with Rifkin. I think that, of course, there's going to be a turning point, and what's happening in the automotive sector today is already an answer to this, which means switching to electric transportation is also because fuel, I mean, petrol is not an unlimited resource. And so the implication for designers are, of course, very important. And I think it also forces us designers to see things in a more, let's say, with a more wide lens. Because I give you an example. If you design an internal combustion car, like a normal car, you never think about the infrastructure. It looks like the infrastructure is given because you don't even think how to bring the petrol to the petrol station, how to extract the oil for doing that, because we're given for as a car designer, we are given for granted that is going to happen forever, and it's not our job to design the infrastructure. But what Tesla, for example, demonstrated is that in this new paradigm, you need to design the vehicle and the system, and have a strong passion for Tesla and respect. I am also a Tesla owner of a Model 3 because I believe so much in this that I mean this is for sure where the future is gonna go, and the implication for our designers is that we need to think in terms of systems rather than just products. Because today, when you design an electric car like the Model 3, for example, the car I own, I know as a customer that is not the car what I bought. I bought a car because probably I mean, it was given to me in the form of a car with the business model of a car, because probably that was the simplest way to reach me. But I know that I didn't buy a car only. I know that that thing I bought is a car plus a digital infrastructure plus a physical infrastructure, which makes the mobility system work. So if you take either one out, it doesn't work. It doesn't either is not. I mean, it doesn't work at all because the physical infrastructure is the charging points, and an electric car without the charging point, without that kind of fast charging point, is almost useless, especially for long trips. And the digital infrastructure is what allow me, for example, to check the battery of the car from my desk, or what allow me to take the car out of a parking spot remotely, or knowing the condition of a car, where is the car in this moment. So the digital infrastructure is this plus the navigation systems. That's why Tesla is bringing also satellites in space, because one day, maybe it's not explicit, but someday those will grant also connectivity for vehicles everywhere on the planet. So the implication for our designers is this: to think about the system and not about the physicality of the product only, which is exactly what Jeremy Rifkin said in the year 2000. And I feel very lucky that I resonated with me, because it literally changed my career. So I think every designer today should keep this in mind. Okay, we were talking about digital fabrication. Another very important use that I made of my printers and the digital tools I created is virtual reality headsets based on mobile technology, very different from the high-end technology, which is those of for example, the Vive or the Oculus, which need a lot of let's say a lot of calculation power and a lot of cables and to work properly. So when I was working in aviation, I realized that there was a need for customizing the aircraft interiors, and what was available at the time was not right for it. I mean, you could use the Google Cardboard, which virtual reality headset, very simple with mobile technology made in cardboard. But I saw an opportunity of using 3D printing for those projects and create, let's say, my own version with 3D printing. And in this case, what you see on the screen is made in wood. So it's 3D printed with a very noble material. It's a wooden filament that you feed the 3D printer with. And it's a much nicer product to hold in your hands. It smells like wood. It feels like wood. And I developed the project for that reason, because of, let's say, luxury product customization at the beginning. But then I made different version of it. And one of them, I use it for another big installation. 2 years later, the Samsung project, this time for Toyota Boshoku, one of the the companies of the Toyota group, which asked me to basically create an autonomous car concept, which was done very quickly, and design and model very quickly, and to basically allow people to enter a space which has this Japanese feeling, find 4 headsets on a table, and without instruction, being able to take them, to wear them, and inside the experience, they were allowed to basically choose some materials to be applied to a car interior of an autonomous car. There was this. So that again was an example of a project that covered concept design, automotive design, 3D modeling, of course, but also virtual reality and 3D printing. So it was quite a complete and also, I have to say, a bit stressing project because it was done all in 1 month. But very, very pleasing and very satisfying. At one point, something happened in the world of real-time graphics. So what you've seen before was mainly made with real-time graphics, which is the technology of video games. So what I learned, let's say, at the beginning of my let's say, journey in digital design. And the technology of video game, the graphic of video games has always been, let's say, below the graphics of normal computer graphics. But at one point, the quality level went so up, so it was increased so much that it came very close. And that was a very big opportunity for me to explore this field and let's say, having a new tool for my design projects. An example for this is this aviation interior design project that was supposed to be developed in 1 month. And in 1 month, unfortunately, because it was very tight, we had to finish the cabin because the seats were not designed yet, and create a promotional video, which is this one. To a few seconds promotional video to show the concept. So I knew that 1 month was just enough for completing the design, and 1 month normally is what it takes to create a good video or product. Being able to make it in everything in 1 month, it basically is about what I mentioned before, the fact of taking 2 different processes and combine them in 1 single process, and save time, save money, and possibly expand the potential, the possibilities. In fact, what that previous video was in reality, and I only have this choice. I mean, was the only choice, to create it as a product configurator first and as a video later, which is not the normal way to create a promotional video for especially for a product like this. So you can tell that what's happening on the screen now is happening in real time, and the quality of what you see is exactly the same quality of the video. That is because at that point, real-time graphics was really started to be comparable with the normal frame-by-frame graphics that you could create with software like Maya or 3D Studio Max and so on. So why was this important? Because first of all, we saved time and money for the project, and also because it expanded the possibility within the design process. Because if you are a designer and you need to stop at one point because the guy that creates the video needs to start, it's very limiting. But if the 2 processes, the process of creating the video and the process of developing the design, they happen at the same time, It means you can also use this this tool as for visualizing the design you're making. And this is what happened. Basically, the seats were modeled to be, in order to be already prepared for real-time visualization. And we were using the what you just saw, the configurator, as a design tool. And once the project was the design project was finished, it took I think the video lasts like 10 seconds. So it took 10 seconds to create the video, because the video had no calculation times. It means basically we could have created hours and hours of videos, and it didn't matter, because the graphics was already there. There was nothing to be calculated anymore. And this is the great advantage of real-time graphics. So today, real-time graphics is revolutionizing the not only the world of let's say industrial products, but also the way movies are made, and probably the way also music is experienced. So there's a lot going on, and I think beside the suggestion we gave before, I think that keeping an eye on the development of real-time graphics is very good for designers today. And the proof of this is that if you see now my entire career path and the split into multidisciplinary fields, there's something very, very interesting that happened to me a couple of years ago, is that the automotive field started being more and more interested in real-time graphics. Why? Because the HMI, the human-machine interfaces rely on real-time graphics, because virtual reality experiences rely on real-time graphics, and all augmented reality relies on real-time graphics. So it is literally a technology that it can be found everywhere today, and is also revolutionizing those worlds. So if you imagine a modern car, take those cars with big screens. You can tell that the importance of what's happening in the screen is becoming more and more important than the physicality of the dashboard. Take, for example, my car, the Tesla Model 3. The dashboard is so minimalistic, and there's nothing except this central screen with whom that you can use to control the entire let's say experience of mobility. So you can tell that the digital revolution is affecting now heavily the car business, and there's a need of expertise in this field in automotive, but is an expertise that doesn't come from the automotive world, because car designers are not trained to be digital designers. And to my surprise, I happen to be a very good trained digital designer, because I spent 10 years focusing on that. And I didn't know that by staying away from car design, I was becoming a better car designer, because I was experiencing, I was getting experience in other fields that now are part of the car design world too. And that probably one of the most interesting things that happened to me recently, because it was not preview. I mean, I resonated with what Rifkin said in the year 2000, but I didn't know that was happening this way. And so we are approaching the end of the presentation, and I'm now showing what is my everyday job today, because there's this huge need in the automotive of not only HMI projects, but a lot of virtual reality experiences. And so this is just an example. It's not a commission project, because most of them are confidential. And so I made this this demo to understand the level of virtual reality today, this is high-end virtual reality, it's not mobile virtual reality. So you have to use a device like Oculus or the Vive. But look at the quality of the visualization, especially the level of detail that you can get today. So you can tell that with this level of detail, you can definitely use virtual reality instead of physical maquettes to make design decision in automotive, and not only, also in aviation and every other field. And it's not a surprise that during the lockdown, I had so many projects like this, because the design team couldn't get together and around the physical maquette. So they were forced to go for virtual reality to make design decision. So my job was to creating these experiences, and also putting together all the different variants, all the different combination, because it was actually a car configurator what I was creating, made mainly for making design decision, so that the CEO or the head of the development could wear the headset, sometimes sit in a physical maquette, in a real seat when it was possible, and decide which was the design proposal that needed to go on. And that was important from the design point of view, but there's something else that I'm working on at the moment, which is important both from the design development point of view, because when you have an avatar in a car which is replicating your exact movements, you can also, you have a different feeling of how is the car interior, how does it feel? So you can, for example, interact with the steering wheel or open compartments. You have a feeling of the distance. You can make a sort of, let's say, ergonomic decisions. But you can also imagine that creating an avatar and being able to have also different avatars in the same at the same time, in the same environment, is also a very good communication and marketing tool, because we could imagine in the future to sell a car even remotely with this system, because this allow with a very simple equipment. I mean, it's not very simple, but it's quite affordable. I mean, a few thousand euros, you know, and a powerful computer is enough to create these remote meetings with full avatars. And creating a full avatar is not an easy task. You see that in the video that I have sensors attached on me. Not a lot of sensors, but the technology is getting better and better, that you probably won't need them in a few years. But this was to say that my everyday job today has a lot to do with of course, complete digital, immersive digital experiences, and I put into practice what I learned in all these years. It would be very important for me to mention that all the projects that I went through, as I said, most of them were made by one person, but also with one tool, which is Unity 3D. Unity is, I always say, this is my business companion, because it allowed me to literally make miracles, you know, like the project, the aviation project that we mentioned before. Unity basically is a video game engine. It means is the technology that allow video game to work. And when I started using it, I meant it as a video game engine, but the more I got into that, I literally understood the potential. And Unity itself as a company today is present in different fields, because they are aware of the fact that their technology, and they have not a lot of competitors, so is literally revolutionizing different fields at the same time. So I think it was important to mention it because it is my #1 tool today, and I've used it for so many different projects that I mean, I probably my job would be very different without it. So today I try to bring together car design, concept design, and digital design in experience design, which is different from user experience design. For me, experience design is literally bringing together the physicality of the projects and also their digital part, and in a solution that put the user in the middle. And this is probably the most advanced approach that could be imagined today. And yeah, it is worth to be explored. So my journey is not finished, I guess. So we'll be continue. And so I will be happy to maybe show more in the future. And so get in touch somehow. Here's my email, my website, and my, let's say, social pages. Well, thank you so much for your attention.
Yes, thank you, Turi. Fantastic. I think you actually answered at the end one of the questions, which is the Unity 3D. They were wondering, did you use Unreal Engine?
Yes.
You know, I only count actually at this point you have Act 1 and Act 2. So I think you're absolutely right. There's an Act 3 yet to be written in your career path. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
If you want an hint, I mean, it's gonna be even more unconventional, because and I think it's the time for me to bring my passion for music in the in the equation. I still I still don't know exactly how, but it's probably going to be that. Yeah, there's gonna be an Act 3, definitely.
Well, that's great. I mean, I love the fact that you're making part of what your design is making the tools for the designer at this point too, and that's probably even more impactful than anything else that one can do. Is to create that thing that is going to be used by all, and I cannot applaud you enough, and it's amazing career that you've already had.
Thank you so much. It wasn't easy. I mean, a very hard decision to be made, and but I'm glad that I can share my experience today, because I'm sure that someone else could do the same, not as I did, because we're all different, and but we need to really be in search of our own path. And sometimes I think that job description, especially for designers, are a bit too much standard, and we need to explore a little bit more the discipline.
Well, I'll finish with like one more question, and then we'll wrap. But it's one that I asked you before when we were talking on the phone. But this idea of the designer becoming the programmer, what would you say is kind of opening? What's the way to open that door for students these days who, you know, they're getting constantly hit by all kinds of technologies, and even the analog to digital, and what would you say is the way to open that door for them?
I think that the way I approached the problem was very dramatic. It was very hard, because I started learning really what is called hard coding. It means writing text. And so before with JavaScript, then with C#. So my approach was very strong, and I had no other choices actually, and it was right that way. But today there's many different ways to approach programming. And the programming, I think, little by little is getting into the tools, also the designer tools. Every time you see a visual programming tool, like for example, what Grasshopper has. Grasshopper is a plugin for Rhino that allows to make parametric design. That is programming too. I mean, but it's programming by logic. Is a visual programming that allows you to imagine the logic behind building a complex surface and figuring out by putting together some blocks visually. So my opinion is that, I mean, if people wants to get into writing code, I think is always a good choice. But there's also an in-between line where you can definitely understand the principle of programming and apply it to your everyday work, because programming is nothing but logic. Then you can write the instruction, or you can give the instruction with a slightly more user-friendly interface, but logic is really in our everyday life, and the products we use, as I said before, now they have behaviors. So a designer at least need to understand the logic to create those behaviors, and maybe you could have programmers creating that for him. But the more you get into the programming subject, the more you will find yourself comfortable and aware of the context, and the more you will be in the middle of the project, instead of being, let's say, just the stylist, you know, in a world of design, which is becoming more and more digital.
Fantastic. I will tell you, there's a thank yous for answering the questions. There's a concur for your take on Rifkin, and the dean wants to become a programmer now. So a very good job. And thank you so much, Turi, for your time. And I hope the 30th is going as well as the 29th is for us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.